Subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon so that you never miss any video lesson from Rao's IAS Study Circle.
Hello and welcome to Daily News Simplified, an answer to what, why, and how of newspaper reading from our UPSC examination perspective.
Today, let us discuss the important news which has appeared in the New Delhi edition of the Hindu newspaper dated 2nd March 2021. The news to be discussed has been displayed on your screen, and timestamping for the same has been provided in the description box below. So, on this note, let's start our today's discussion from our examination perspective. Now, the first news relating to Chinese cyber attack is an important news and appears throughout the newspaper. As you can see, it appears on page number 1, page number 8, and also on page number 9. Now, the page number 1 and page number 8 news highlights that Chinese cyber attack foiled as per the Power Ministry. And the news on page number 9 says that Chinese may have targeted power system ports as per a US firm named Recorded Future. So, on this note, let us go through some of the facts which can be asked in your prelims examination. Now, first of all, the Chinese group which has targeted our power system and ports is the Red Echo, and the malware which they have spread is referred as ShadowPad. So, this Chinese group, namely known as the Red Echo, is responsible to spread the malware referred as ShadowPad. Now, the primary purpose of any cyber warfare is espionage and also financial gain to the country and financial loss to the other country. So all these news highlights that a power outage which happened in Mumbai in October 2020 was because of this malware ShadowPad, which was released by Red Echo, which is a state-sponsored Chinese group. And this news was also reported by the cybersecurity firm Recorded Future, which was published in the New York Times. Now, regarding this threat, India's CERT-IN, that is Cyber Emergency Response Team, and also NTRO's National Critical Information Infrastructure Protection Center had already warned the Ministry of Power about this particular threat. Specifically, the NTRO's NCIIPC had warned the Ministry of Power that Red Echo is targeting Indian power sector's regional load dispatch center and also state load dispatch centers. And these reports also appeared in the New York Times as it was stated by cybersecurity firm the Recorded Future. So from our prelims perspective, you must know about the Chinese group Red Echo, which is responsible for the malware ShadowPad, and also the fact that this threat was already warned by India's Cyber Emergency Response Team, which functions under the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, and also by National Critical Information Infrastructure Protection Center, which functions under NTRO, that is National Technical Research Organization. Now, National Technical Research Organization functions under the National Security Advisor of the Government of India. So all these facts becomes important from your prelims point of view. Another important aspect is that the National Technical Research Organization is the technical intelligence agency under the National Security Advisor, and it is listed under the Intelligence Organization's Restrictions of Rights Act 1985. Now, since this news is related to cyber warfare, let us understand about cyber warfare and also with respect to the impact of cyber warfare. Now, it says that cyber warfare encompasses the actions by any international organization to attack and try to cause damage to another nation's infrastructure, computers, or information systems through computer virus or denial of service attacks. Now, it further says that cyber warfare is also known as the use or affecting in a battle space or warfare in the background of computers, online control systems, and networks. Another important point is that cyber warfare comprises both aggressive and distrustful operations relating to the danger of cyber attacks, espionage, and collateral or other damage. So if a question is asked in your mains examination pertaining to what do you mean by cyber warfare, then you can highlight these important terms in limited words. Now, regarding the impact of cyber warfare, we can say that first and foremost is regarding leaking of state secrets, which can be also associated with espionage. Next, it also impacts financial loss, and this can trigger further cyber warfares between the two countries involved in the act. Further, it also leads to physical and digital disruptions, reputational loss for the country, and it also impacts the citizens living in the society. As we saw that the power outage which happened in Mumbai because of the Chinese malware ShadowPad, it impacted the running of local trains in Mumbai. It impacted the electricity provided in the hospitals as hospitals had to survive on generators. It impacted electricity and internet in the offices, and it also impacted the functioning of stock exchanges as there was no electricity for a substantial amount of time. So these can be said to be some of the dangerous impact of cyber warfare on another nation. Thus, this news primarily becomes important from your prelims point of view as questions can be asked in your prelims regarding these malware, namely ShadowPad, which has been spread by state-sponsored Chinese group known as Red Echo. Now, based on our discussion, let's take up these two questions asked by UPSC in the prelims of 2018. Now, this question number 58 in set A, the question was the terms WannaCry, PETA, and Eternal Blue, sometimes mentioned in the news recently, are related to. Options were A. Exoplanets, B. Cryptocurrency, C. Cyber attacks, and D. Mini satellites. In this, the correct answer was cyber attacks. So we understand that this malware ShadowPad can be asked again by UPSC in your prelims examination. Now, similarly, another question related to science and technological developments was asked in the 2018 prelims as well. The question was, consider the following pairs: terms sometimes seen in news and context or topics. So this term has been constantly used by UPSC, that these terms sometimes mentioned in the news recently or seen in the news. So in this regard, the options are Ballet 2 experiment, artificial intelligence. No, this is incorrect as Ballet 2 experiment is with respect to particle physics, especially B mesons. Second, blockchain technology, digital or cryptocurrency. Yes, this is correct. Third, CRISPR-Cas9, particle physics. No, CRISPR-Cas9 is a gene editing tool. So the question here was which of the pairs given above are correctly matched. So the only pair correctly matched is option 2. So here the correct answer becomes B, that is 2 only. Now this topic becomes important both from your prelims and mains point of view. In your prelims, this topic gets covered under general science, and in your mains under GS paper 3, especially with respect to awareness in the field of science and technology and role of external state or non-state actors in creating challenges to internal security and also challenges to internal security through communication networks. So after this discussion, let's move to the next article. The next news to be discussed appears on page number 2 and it is associated with recycling of e-waste. It says IIT Delhi researchers develop technology to recycle e-waste. Now this news highlights that researchers at IIT Delhi have come up with zero emission technology to manage and recycle e-waste. Now it's important to understand as to why recycling of e-waste is necessary. First is regarding metal recovery because e-waste contains a lot of important and valuable metals, and second is with respect to capturing the energy production. So the researchers are using the process of pyrolysis to recycle e-waste. Now pyrolysis is the thermal decomposition of materials at elevated temperature or at higher temperature in the absence of oxygen. So the researchers at IIT Delhi aims to shred and pyrolyze e-waste. So here it's important to understand that why recycling of e-waste is important. Now e-waste or electronic waste comprises of TV boards, PC boards, mobile phone, portable audio, DVD player, calculated, printed circuit boards, old computers, laptops, etc. So all these items are discarded and they create environmental pollution because they also contains heavy and hazardous metals. So it highlights that waste electric and electronic equipment is now considered as one of the fastest growing waste streams. And the most distinctive feature of electronic waste is complexity of components and their integration. So there are a number of metals in such electronic waste. So it says that this type of waste consists of polymeric materials and high content of valuable metals that can be recovered. So the idea behind recycling this electronic waste is to recover valuable metals. And the purpose of thermal treatment of electronic waste is elimination of plastic components from such e-waste such as epoxy resins, which is a primary skin irritant, and also while leaving non-volatile mineral and metallic phases in one or more less original forms. It further says that the gaseous product of the process of recycling of e-waste after cleaning may be used for energy recovery or as syngas, also known as synthetic gas. Now, synthetic gas is a mix of molecules which contains hydrogen, methane, carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, water vapors, as well as other hydrocarbons and condensable compounds. So, syngas is a main product of gasification and majority product of high temperature pyrolysis carried on any biomass, residues, and waste, including e-waste. So we saw that electronic waste comprises of these discarded electronic items. However, the question still remains that whether recycling of these e-waste is actually important or valuable. Now, recycling of these e-waste is actually valuable because these e-waste comprises of iron, copper, aluminium, lead, nickel, silver, gold, and even palladium. Now, another very important e-waste item is the printed circuit boards. As the composition of printed circuit boards comprises of gold, palladium, silver, copper, aluminium, iron, tin, lead, nickel, and zinc. So, recycling of e waste will help in recovering all these precious metals. So, regarding the waste printed circuit board, it says that it contains lots of valuable resources together with hazardous materials and also heavy metals. It says that this type of waste contains heavy metals and also hazardous substances that may pollute environment if they are not properly treated. So it says that a significant amount of valuable materials contained in waste printed circuit boards makes them worth being recycled. So since printed circuit boards comprises of all these valuable metals, that is why it is worth recycling these e-waste including waste printed circuit boards. Now based on our discussion, let's take up this particular question asked by UPSC in the prelims of 2019. The question was, in the context of which one of the following are the terms pyrolysis and plasma gasification mentioned? Options were A. Extraction of rare earth elements, B. Natural gas extraction technologies, C. Hydrogen fuel based automobiles, and D. Waste to energy technologies. In this, the correct answer is D, that is waste to energy technologies, as we have just seen in this particular news with respect to recycling of e-waste using pyrolysis. So, the important highlights of this news can be said to be: first, benefits of recycling. The news highlights that researchers of IIT have said that using their method, e waste will be shredded and pyrolyzed to yield liquid and gaseous fuels, leaving behind material rich solid fraction. Next, regarding residue, it says that on further separation using a novel technique, the leftover solid residue yields 90 to 95% pure metal mixture and some carbonaceous materials. So, a 90 to 95% of pure metal mixture is yielded on pyrolysis of e waste and also certain carbonaceous materials. Now, third is on use of carbonaceous materials. So, it highlights that these carbonaceous materials are further converted to aerogel for oil spillage cleaning, dye removal, carbon dioxide capture, and use in supercapacitors. So, if a question is used by UPSC regarding the use of aerogel, then you can highlight these important uses, namely oil spillage cleaning, dye removal, carbon dioxide capture, and use in supercapacitors. And lastly, this article says that its research conducted by researchers of IIT-Delhi is funded by the government. So the news highlights that the technology is an outcome of Department of Science and Technology funded project, and the developed technology will cater to the need of smart cities, Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, and Atmanirbhar Bharat initiatives of the Government of India. Thus, this news also becomes important from the perspective of both your prelims and mains examination. In the prelims, this topic gets covered under general science, and in the mains, it gets covered under science and technology, especially with respect to developments and their applications and effects in everyday life, achievement of Indians in science and technology, Indianization of technology and developing new technology, and also with respect to environmental pollution, as e-waste contains hazardous and heavy metals which can lead to environmental pollution. So after our discussion on this particular research done by IIT Delhi, let's move to the next article. The next news to be discussed appears as a lead article on page number 6. It says the vital but delicate task of reviving the Iran deal. Time is running out for the Joe Biden administration, but there is an opportunity for Brussels to take the lead role. Now this article highlights about United States plugging out of the JCPOA or the Iran nuclear deal. And because of this, Iran shifted from its strategy of strategic patience to that of maximum resistance. Now this is because when United States withdrew from the Iran nuclear deal, Iran was still in compliance with its obligation as certified by IAEA. Now, after the US withdrawal from JCPOA or Iran nuclear deal in May 2018, in the first year, Iran's response was muted enough. However, France, Germany, and UK, collectively known as E3, along with European Union countries, promised Iran to find alternatives, especially with respect to US pulling out of the Iran nuclear deal. However, in later years, Iran's patience ran out because of two aspects. Number one, because the sanctions imposed by US started hurting the economic interest of Iran. And second, economic relief as promised by the E3 and European Union countries failed to materialize. And because of this, the strategic patience strategy of Iran soon converted to maximum resistance. Now, for Obama administration, the JCPOA or the Iran nuclear deal was the greatest diplomatic success. Now, this was because Iran in those times was mere months away from nuclear enrichment and having a nuclear weapon. So, in that respect, JCPOA obliged Iran to constrain its nuclear enrichment program and also come under the inspection of International Atomic Energy Agency. And in return, the United States was willing to lift sanctions from Iran partially. However, this policy of Obama administration was criticized by Donald Trump. So, when Donald Trump became the president of United States of America in May 2018, he withdrew from the Iran nuclear deal and also applied his policy of maximum pressure to coerce Iran to come to a negotiating table. Now, Iran did not comply to this maximum pressure imposed by Donald Trump administration and moreover started to move away from the constraints imposed by JCPOA, especially with respect to its nuclear enrichment program. Further, in the year 2019, Iran exceeded ceilings on low enriched uranium and also on heavy water. It also stepped up research on advanced centrifuges and also violated limits on number of centrifuges which were in use, especially with respect to nuclear enrichment. Further, in January 2020, post attack on IRGC Commander General Qasem Soleimani, Iran announced that it would no longer observe JCPOA constraints. However, Iran did say that its cooperation with IAEA would continue. So, post United States coming out of the Iran nuclear deal in May 2018, Iran's economy contracted. And in the year 2019, Iran's economy contracted by 7%, whereas it contracted by 6% in the year 2020, also because of the COVID 19 impact. Now, in mid 2020s, Iran was again shaken by number of fire and blast at number of its sensitive sites, including Natanz and Khoji. Now, you must remember these important places which is in Iran, as questions have been asked by UPSC in the past with respect to important places in different countries. Now, in November 2020, Iran's senior nuclear scientist and head of research and innovation organization in Iran's defense ministry was also killed. Now, days later, Iranian parliament, dominated by conservatives, passed a bill to enhance nuclear enrichment to 20% and also suspend inspection by IAEA within 2 months if relief on sanctions was not provided by United States of America. Now, another important aspect highlighted in this article is that even E3's promised relief, namely Instrument in Support of Trade Exchanges, that is INSTEX, did not facilitate much of trade. Now, you must know about INSTEX from your prelims perspective, as it was designed as a mechanism to allow Europeans to bypass US sanctions and continue trade with Iran. And the Iran EU trade fell further. So, amid this political backdrop, the question remains as to what are the challenges for Biden administration to overcome this impasse. Now, the first challenge for Biden administration is to hold Iran's nuclear enrichment as its 20% enrichment has begun according to IAEA. However, Iran has postponed withdrawal from additional protocol by another 3 months. Now, here you must know about additional protocol from your examination point of view, as a question was asked by UPSC in the prelims of 2018. Now, additional protocol is not a standalone agreement, but rather a protocol to safeguard agreement that provides additional tools for verification. And in particular, it significantly increases the IAEA's ability to verify the peaceful use of all nuclear materials in the states with comprehensive safeguards agreements. Now, the question asked by UPSC in the year 2018 was, in the Indian context, what is the implication of ratifying the additional protocol with International Atomic Energy Agency? Options were A. The civilian nuclear reactors come under IAEA safeguards. B. The military nuclear installations come under the inspection of IAEA. C. The country will have the privilege to buy uranium from the nuclear supplier group NSG. And D. The country automatically becomes a member of NSG. In this, the correct answer was A. That is, the civilian nuclear reactors come under IAEA safeguards. So, this willful postponement of Iran from additional protocol by another 3 months becomes significant and also provides a window of opportunity to Biden administration. Now, another challenge highlighted here is that Iranian elections are due in June 2021, and the problem is that the new successor may not be willing to cooperate with United States with respect to constraining its nuclear enrichment, as the section of conservatives passed a bill with respect to enhancing nuclear enrichment by 20%. So the author in this article has come up or presented with a conundrum. The conundrum is, first, either United States waits for Iran to return to full compliance of JCPOA, and second, for Iran to wait for United States to lift sanctions completely. And the author says that in either case, if both of these situations do not happen, then it may lead to collapse of JCPOA or Iran nuclear deal, and the result would be a nuclear Iran, which may threaten peace and stability in West Asia and beyond. So these can be said to be some of the challenges presently for Biden administration, especially with respect to Iran. Now, as a way forward, this article has presented certain points. It says that the Biden administration has made a good start by appointing Robert Malley as the US Special Envoy for Iran, but says that he will be needing help. However, positive steps along multiple tracks are necessary to create a conducive atmosphere both in US and Iran, as it will also help to build trust which was lost due to United States pulling out of the US nuclear deal. Next, the article says that Iran must release European and American nationals as it will help to build trust between US and Iran. Next, the article says about clearing Iran's application to International Monetary Fund for COVID-19 relief and also for supply of vaccines under the International COVAX facility, and this can be done easily. Next, the article says that the E3, that is France, Germany and UK, along with EU, needs to fast-track deals worth several hundred million euros stuck in the INSTEX pipeline, and this must be done with a visible nod from the United States of America. Now, regarding lifting of sanctions on Iran, the article says that not all US sanctions can be lifted instantly, but reversing Mr. Trump's executive order of May 2018 as a first step is quite possible, including removing sanctions on Iranian political leaders, as both these steps taken by United States of America will again send a positive signal to Iran. The article further says that the US should share with the E3 and EU a 45 to 16-day time frame for progressive restoration of sanctions relief. Meanwhile, Iran needs to refrain from any further nuclear enrichment or any further nuclear brinkmanship. The article also says that the IAEA, the E3 and EU should work on a parallel reversal of steps taken by Iran to ensure full compliance with the JCPOA. So again, the article mentions about Iran complying with the constraints of JCPOA. And it is here where EU can take a lead role to be taken seriously as an independent foreign policy actor. So this is the way forward which has been provided by this article. Now this article becomes important both from your prelims and mains point of view. In your prelims, this article gets covered under current events of international importance. And in the mains, this topic gets covered under GS paper 2, especially with respect to effects of policies and politics of developed and developing countries on India's interest. So with this news analysis, let's move to the next article. The next news to be discussed appears on page number 10. It says, US trade report flags issues from Make in India policy. And this report is with respect to 2021 trade policy agenda and 2020 annual report of the President of United States on the trade agreements program. Now this report highlights about India's Make in India project and has highlighted that this project of Government of India restricts trade. Now this report also highlights about Trump's administration revocation of India's preferential trading status, especially with respect to GSP, that is Generalized System of Preferences. So the report highlights recent Indian emphasis on import substitution through Make in India campaign and has epitomized the challenges facing the bilateral trade relationship. So this report also mentions that Make in India program, which is trade restrictive, may impact bilateral trade relationship between India and United States. It further says that effective from June 5, 2019, the United States terminated India's eligibility under the Generalized System of Preferences, that is GSP, following a review of concerns related to India's compliance with GSP market access criteria. Now, GSP or Generalized System of Preferences provides duty free treatment to goods of designated beneficiary countries. Now, the report says that subsequent to suspension of India's GSP benefits, the United States and India resumed intensive work in the fall of 2019, which was aimed at producing a package of meaningful market access outcomes. And this engagement continued throughout 2020. Now, the objective of United States in this negotiation included resolution of various non-tariff barriers, targeted reduction of certain Indian tariffs, and other market access improvements. So both countries, that is India and United States, negotiated with respect to market access with respect to various goods. It says that the United States also engaged with India on an ongoing basis throughout 2020 in response to specific concerns affecting full range of pressing bilateral trade issues, including intellectual property protection and enforcement, policy development affecting electronic commerce and digital trade, and also market access for agriculture and non-agricultural goods and services. So these are some of the important points which has been highlighted in the 2021 Trade Policy Agenda and 2020 Annual Report of the President of the United States on the Trade Agreements Program. Now this topic becomes important as in the prelims examination it gets covered under current events of international importance and also with respect to Indian economy, and in the mains gets covered under GS paper 2 and GS paper 3. In GS paper 2 with respect to effects of policies and politics of developed and developing countries on India's interest, and also bilateral, regional and global groupings and agreements involving India or affecting India's interest. Whereas in GS paper 3 it gets covered under issues pertaining to Indian economy, especially with respect to trade and commerce. Now based on our discussion, this becomes your question for the day. The question is, the term ShadowPad mentioned in the news relates to options are A. Cryptocurrency, B. Exoplanets, C. Cyber attack, and D. COVID vaccine. Now coming to the answer of yesterday, the question was in which of the following organization both India and Brazil are members. So India and Brazil are members of BRICS, G4, G20, but not of INSTEX project. So here the correct answer becomes B, that is 1, 2 and 3 only. With this we come to an end to today's discussion. Thank you.